My name is Joe Hupy. I'm a professor within the Digital Forestry group here at Purdue University. So wildfire hazards really relate a lot to the properties that people have in what is an increasingly urban environment moving into what would be considered forested or wild environments. A lot of times when people move into these environments, they want the amenities of nature, such as trees close to their house. They want to have their wooden cabins. They might want to have their wood-shingled roofs. They often have hazards associated with that, such as the trees too close to the home, debris in the lawn, because they maybe are in the environment to where they might want to have a woodland look, where they leave the trees that are down or branches down. And another overlooked hazard are propane tanks that are often located quite close to the home or to these fuel sources. Yeah, drones are a great source to help identify the hazards because in the past, we were really limited by not just the spatial resolution of satellite imagery in that satellites domestically, you legally can't get anything better than 60 centimeters before you get into classified information, but also from a temporal sense because satellites can only pass over certain areas a certain amount of times. You can pay for that information, but it's often not what is needed when is needed. So drones can deploy where they are wanted, but they can also provide information in a way that we get a lot more detail, and we're capturing detail that we couldn't capture before. Yeah, there's a lot of interest from the insurance industry in this, but if we look outside of the insurance industry, there is a lot of effort going on in terms of just doing ground-based surveys. So when we look at a property, we might identify these potential hazards on the property and say what's needed, but you're just not going to get the same coverage that you would get from a drone, nor would you have the ability to model that or to verify that information. Well, right now, the way that hazards are dealt with is it really relates a lot to the local ordinances or the local zoning codes or through a product of the insurance industry. So in some areas, insurance industries are actually using aerial information and identifying those problems. When an insurance company looks at this, for example, with the Los Angeles wildfires, what they will do is they will look at a neighborhood and they will develop a model on it. So, for example, there's a company called Guidewire, and Guidewire deals with insurance data. They modeled the Los Angeles area and gave it grades. And some of the things that they looked at was the steepness of the slopes. They were looking at the vegetation fuel load. They were looking at how many roads go in and out of the area. And they were even looking at where fire hydrants were located. So these are all things that go into it. Unfortunately, what we have in many cases is that we have local ordinances that sometimes prevent people from even cutting trees down in their yard because they want the neighborhood to have a woodsy look and to be able to blend in with nature. So sometimes what's going on goes completely opposite of what should be done in terms of getting rid of the hazards. Sometimes, and in some locations, there are new laws being put out. Some new developments are actually being built to be fire safe, where they do have to meet a certain code, where you might have inspectors coming by on the ground, or even in aerial surveys. But again, these aerial surveys aren't really using AI, they're just using the human eye to identify the given patterns or proximity of possible fuel load sources.